About 2 months ago I made a video about my favorite video editing plugin, which is DEHANCER. I use it in Final Cut, but it's also available in Davinci Resolve and Premiere Pro. Recently they released a new version which resolves a lot of the issues that I had with the first version and also improves and adds some stuff to the plugin, which I'm really happy about. In this video I'm not gonna cover everything about the plugin because I already did that in my previous video. I'm just gonna go over the changes and over what's new in the plugin and how much it improves the usability of the plugin. So if you're not familiar with it, I would say go watch my previous video and then click back onto this one to see what's changed. Let's jump into Final Cut so I can show you what's new. So here we have a clip of my friend Kevin cleaning his E30. This is a clip from a video I made recently, which is the story of his BMW E30. If you have time, go watch it after this.
I am Kevin, and this is my 1991 BMW E30.
Usually how I go about using DEHANCER is I will do my edit and then I will add an adjustment layer above the whole clip. That way I don't have to apply DEHANCER to each clip, but I will apply it to the whole project, so it will affect everything. And then I will just adjust the clips that I need to with the color grades to make them all cohesive and all work with each other. So with this clip I think the colors and exposure are already quite nice, so we're just gonna jump into DEHANCER right away. So as usual, when you apply DEHANCER to your clip, it will have a bunch of stuff just turned on randomly, like the film simulation and everything else. So I want to turn everything off, and I will actually save this as a preset with DEHANCER with everything off. So when I want to start a color grade from scratch, I just have a blank DEHANCER effect that I can put on and then tweak and add whatever I want. So the first few things are the same as they always were. If you scroll down to film grain, you will see there's no sliders, because with this new version DEHANCER has added a bunch of presets to every effect. So if we go into the presets, we'll have a bunch of different film times with variable ISOs. So the higher the ISO value, the more noise there is, and also the smaller the film, the more noise there is. So that's the basic explanation of how this works. All the presets have to do with film size because DEHANCER is a film-based tool, so they analyze various types of films and then they use that to make a digital copy of what that film would be. Here you can see an 8mm 500 has really a lot of noise and really destroys the image. And if you go to something like 65mm ISO 50, there's almost no noise. So for my edits, I generally like the look of 35mm, and here we can go to maybe ISO 250. If you're not happy with any of the presets, you can find the preset that you like the most. Then click on custom and it will give you the option to customize the preset to make it look exactly how you want. You can change everything as it used to be in the old DEHANCER. But especially for film grain, I really like the presets they have, so I would just leave it to 35mm ISO 250 for this clip, and that's good enough. Again, same thing with the halation. They have the same film presets. There's 2 presets for each film type. So here's 8mm and then 8mm no ramjet. Ramjet is a layer on the actual film stock that will make the film have less halation and less bloom, at least from my understanding. So a no ramjet film will have much more halation and much more bloom. If you're used to shooting film, you'll know that something like a Kodak Color will have much less bloom and halation than Cinestill, because Cinestill doesn't have a ramjet layer on the film, while most of the other films you will use have a ramjet layer on it. And that's why the 35mm no ramjet option will give you much more halation than the standard 35mm option. This clip doesn't have a lot of contrast, so the halation doesn't show up as much, so I would go to 16 or maybe even to 8. Yeah, 8mm definitely looks great. I really like how much halation there is around the headlight, so I would leave it at 8. Again, if you're not happy with any of this, you can just find the one you like the most, click on custom, and then just customize it to look however you want. You can add a whole bunch of halation to it if you really want, but for me it's not the look that I'm going for. Now we can go to bloom. This clip already has kind of a bloomy vibe because of all the water being sprayed around, but we can definitely add some more. Again, here we have the options with the films. Here we have only 4 options, so there's nothing additional like the no ramjet versions or the various ISOs. So for this clip, I would go with some subtle bloom. 65 is enough, just a slight additional blooming. Now we can go to something brand new to DEHANCER, which is the film damage tool. As you can probably tell by the name, this tool will add a bunch of damage to your film, so like slight scratches, dust, or even hairs. You know, when you process your film and go to scan it, sometimes there might be dust or hairs or scratches on your film, especially if the film is really old and it's not the first time you're scanning it. So this will give you that old, worn out look. This is not something that I would use for every clip, and I think I will probably add this effect to a bunch of just black solid clips so that I can export the effect and use it just as another layer on the edit, because I would use this maybe on 1 or 2 clips in an edit instead of using it on a full edit. So adding it just as an overlay instead of adding it with DEHANCER would make the processing much faster, which would make the export much faster and the project easier to work with. I will make those overlays and leave a download link in the description if you want to download it and use it, and maybe in return you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Anyways, let's jump into it. So again, we have a bunch of different options, and again, the smaller the film, the bigger the effect will be, because obviously if you have an 8mm film that's really small, a scratch on that will be much bigger and much more prominent than on a 35 or 65mm film. And again, we can customize this. We can add as much dust, as much hairs, and as much scratches as we want, and we can really make it look destroyed. And with this one, I would probably go quite hard. As I said, this is not something that I would use on each clip, but only on a few clips in a video. And on those clips, I really want it to be noticeable, so I would just add a lot of it to make it really noticeable and give it the rugged look that I want. But yeah, generally, for a full edit, I wouldn't use this on the whole thing. And the last two we have are film breadth and gate width. I didn't really cover this in my last DEHANCER video because it's not something I really use. But generally, film breadth will give you a slight exposure and white balance change from frame to frame, which is something that happens with film because it's not always constant and the development process is not always perfect. So sometimes you will have slight differences between frames, and this is what film breadth does. It's definitely not something that I would use too much. I would use it if I was really trying to emulate and make something look like it was completely shot on film, but generally I like the cleaner look with having the white balance constant in my videos, so I wouldn't really use that. And then gate width will add a slight shake to the video, emulating a roll of film being projected, because maybe the roll of film while rolling will skip a tooth on the sprocket or something and will not always be perfectly aligned, and this will emulate that by making your frame shift a little left and right, up and down. If you've seen any footage from a really old film camera, you probably can see that, but again, it's not something that I really like in my videos, so it's not something that I would use. So basically that's it. This new version of DEHANCER makes the process so much faster because you have all the presets that you would want, and it makes it much easier to get the exact look you want, especially when, like me, you really don't know what exactly all the sliders in DEHANCER mean and don't want to spend time learning them. Something I would advise is applying DEHANCER at the end of your edit, just because it's a really power-hungry plugin and it will make your program go much slower. If you look at this clip with DEHANCER and we try playing it, it will just drop a bunch of frames and not play smoothly. And this will make your laptop or computer work much harder and less effective. So usually I will just apply it at the end of my edit before exporting, and then wait for the video to render and export it with the effect applied. That's it for this video. If you still haven't watched the old one I made, it will be somewhere around here to click for you. And if you're thinking of buying it, you can use code PERHAT22 to get 10% off. stuff and to give me a little kickback to help support the channel.